They didn't just betray you, they betrayed the hand that fed their breakthrough. They sat at your table, ate from your plate, drank from your spirit, and had the audacity to spit in your face when it was time to honor you. After everything you did, everything you gave, everything you endured, they still turned on you. And not softly, not by accident. No, they laughed when you cried, lied when you were loyal, and walked away the moment you couldn't carry them anymore. Then, as if that wasn't enough, they rewrote the story to make you the villain in the very chapter you bled to build. You didn't just give them your time, you gave them shelter in your storm. You defended them when they were defenseless. You poured into them when your cup was empty. You sacrificed while they slept. And now, they call you dramatic, bitter. Too much. They sit with your enemies, entertain gossip about you, joke about the wounds they helped create. Oh, they didn't just betray you. They attempted character assassination and called it closure. Before we go any further, Chosen One, if this message is already cutting deep and waking something up inside of you, pause and hit that like and subscribe button. It's more than support. It tells the algorithm this message needs to reach more chosen ones like you. It spreads the light. It protects the mission. We're not just venting, we're calling truth into the open. Now, let's speak on it. This isn't confusion. This is calculated betrayal. They knew what you were. They knew who you were. You weren't a mystery to them. You were a miracle, a walking shield, a soul that held space they had never experienced before. You reminded them of their worth. You stood beside them when everyone else gave up. You spoke life into their name when they were cursing themselves under their breath. And how did they repay you? They started treating you like a burden, like your emotions were too loud, your love was too much, your expectations were unrealistic, as if wanting respect, honesty and loyalty was asking for the moon. But it's funny, when they were broken and bleeding, those same qualities were called healing. They needed your stability, your strength, your wisdom, until they felt strong enough to spit on it. They used your heart as a landing pad, your loyalty as a doormat, and your softness as a weapon against you. And now they pretend like you were the problem, like you were the one who ruined it. But let's tell the truth. You carried them. You prayed for them in silence. You covered their back while they stabbed yours. You held them up when their world was falling apart, and when yours cracked, they disappeared. They didn't just leave. They made sure to mock you first, made sure to act brand new in front of people who never saw your tears. They started showing up with fake love and empty eyes, giving pieces of themselves to strangers while starving the one person who would have died for them. Chosen One, this wasn't heartbreak. This was spiritual warfare. They didn't just fall out of love. They aligned with energies that were sent to break you. They became channels for destruction, inviting in chaos and blaming you when it knocked everything down. They sat at tables where your name was shredded. They chose status over substance, ego over elevation, clout over character. And now they think they're free. They think their silence is peace. But you and I both know it's guilt dressed in calm. They sleep with regret. They scroll through your page when nobody's watching. They laugh a little too loud to cover the weight sitting in their spirit. Because you weren't just a chapter. You were the whole foundation. And what they lost cannot be duplicated. Let's be even clearer. You didn't just love them, you labored for them, spiritually, emotionally, energetically. You saw their potential when they were too blind to see it themselves. You made sacrifices that were never repaid. You overlooked red flags because you believed in healing. And even when your intuition screamed, you gave them another chance, because that's what chosen ones do. But your love wasn't weakness. It was warfare, and now the battle has shifted. You're not the same person anymore. You've shed the skin that needed validation. You've let go of the version of you that tolerated crumbs and called it loyalty. You see the truth now. You recognize the pattern. You feel the shift. And while they're stuck trying to mimic your energy with counterfeits, you're evolving into something they'll never touch again. So no, they didn't just hurt you, they hurt their own future. They didn't just ghost you, they ghosted divine favor. They didn't just betray a person, they betrayed a spiritual lifeline they'll never access again. And now they're left watching you glow from the sidelines, wondering how someone they thought they broke is still rising. They did this to you after everything you gave, and now the universe is answering. And hey, chosen one, stay close, because what you just heard, that was only the trailer. The real picture is about to begin, and it gets deeper, darker, and more revealing. They really did all this to you after everything you gave. But now it's time to break it all down, piece by piece. So are you ready to dive in step by step? Drop the number 77 in the comments if you're ready to turn your isolation into transformation. And if you feel led, bless the team behind this message with a super thanks, because your support keeps this truth flowing and this mission alive. And now let's dive into it, step by step. And believe me, if you are a true chosen one, you're going to feel the pull to stay till the very last word. Let's get started. Number 1. You were their shelter, but they set fire to the roof. The greatest betrayal isn't when they leave you, it's when they burn the very shelter that kept them alive and call you the storm. Let's talk about it, chosen one. They didn't just forget you, they set fire to the roof you built over their head with your bare hands. You weren't just a safe space, you were the entire foundation they leaned on when life was breaking them down. You caught them when the world dropped them. You protected them from storms they started. You took emotional bullets that weren't meant for you. You stood between them and consequences they didn't even see coming. And what did they do? They doused the roof in gasoline and struck a match, and then had the nerve to act like you ruined the house. They spun the story, painted you as too much, too intense, too emotional. But let's be honest, you were too powerful for their ego to handle. You didn't just love them, you covered them. You gave them shelter from the chaos they attracted, from the trauma they refused to heal, from the enemies they invited in. You were the roof, the walls, the heat, and the light, and they treated you like you were just wallpaper. Let me ask you something. How many times did you protect them behind the scenes? How many nights did you lose sleep over their peace? How many sacrifices did you make that they never even knew about? And now they've flipped the narrative like you were the burden? No, you weren't the problem, you were the protection. They just got used to being shielded and forgot what storms feel like. Now that you're gone, the wind is howling, the walls are cracking, and suddenly everything feels colder. Why? Because the roof they torched was the only thing keeping the flood from swallowing them whole. You didn't just help them survive, you helped them shine. Let's not forget, when you met them, they were lost, confused, spiritually unstable. But once you showed up, doors started opening. Their energy felt clearer. Opportunities found them. That wasn't luck, that was alignment. That was you bringing divine favor into their life, holding back consequences, breathing structure into chaos, and carrying emotional weight they didn't have the discipline to manage. Look at people like Oprah Winfrey, who once said the only reason she didn't collapse under the pressure of fame and trauma was because someone stood in the gap for her. Look at Maya Angelou, betrayed, mocked, misunderstood, but her strength became a beacon for millions. Or think about Martin Luther King Jr., who carried the weight of a nation's trauma and was still stabbed in the back by those closest to him. Even Jesus, whether you believe religiously or metaphorically, was betrayed by someone who sat at his table. This story repeats because the chosen are always the first to be used and the last to be thanked. That's the weight of being chosen. You're not just a lover, you're a shelter. You're the one people run to when their world collapses. You're the one who listens when no one else does, who forgives when no one else would, who stays when it would be easier to walk away. But, chosen one, don't confuse your power with their approval. You were sent not to be worshipped, but to cover, and once your job is done, or once your presence is disrespected, the universe will remove you and let them face the very storm you protected them from. They didn't just lose you, they lost their covering, and now they're standing outside in the same storm you once blocked for them, wondering why nothing feels safe anymore. That anxiety, that confusion, that constant fear of something going wrong, that's not bad luck. That's the spiritual consequence of burning their own shelter. You see, when someone disrespects a chosen one, the universe doesn't respond with revenge. It responds with absence, the removal of protection, the silence where warmth used to live. And that's where they are now, cold, confused, exposed. Because they weren't just protected by you, they thrived because of you. But when they chose ego over gratitude, pride over partnership, betrayal over loyalty, the covering lifted. And now the rain doesn't stop. Every relationship feels empty. Every room feels colder. Because the glow they used to stand under is gone. And they didn't just walk away from it. They torched it. So yes, chosen one, cry if you have to. Grieve what they did, but do not doubt your role. You were their miracle, not their mistake. You were the protection they didn't deserve. You were the gift they misread. You were the roof they danced under until they burned it down. But don't you dare rebuild it for them. Don't you dare lower your frequency just to be understood by people who benefited from your light but laughed when you were dimmed. Let them sit in what they created. Let them face the storm they once mocked. Because now you're rebuilding your own house. One with stronger walls, higher standards, and no doors for betrayal to sneak through. And the next time someone is allowed inside, they'll have to come with respect, alignment, and the spiritual maturity to recognize what they've been given. So let the rain fall where it may. You're not their shelter anymore. You're the storm they'll never recover from. Number 2. You showed up in their rock bottom. Now they mock you from their high horse. Never trust someone who forgets the hand that fed them just because they can now afford a fork. They don't remember now, do they? They don't talk about the nights you stayed up listening to them cry, or the way you poured into them when they had nothing, no confidence, no direction, no plan. They don't mention how you breathed life into their broken vision, how you reminded them who they were when they couldn't even look themselves in the mirror. Now that they've got a little recognition, a few likes, a little status, they've got amnesia, and not the quiet kind. No, they mock you now. They distance themselves. Pretend like you were never there. Like your energy didn't help rebuild their foundation. Like your presence didn't feed their soul when their world was starving. You showed up at their rock bottom. While others laughed, you leaned in. When everyone else saw a mess, you saw potential. You stood by them when the future looked like smoke and rubble. You were the calm voice in their chaos. And you didn't do it for attention, or clout, or control. You did it because that's who you are, a chosen one, called to show up with healing when others run. But now they treat you like you're beneath them, like they elevated above you, like the pedestal they climbed up on was built by their own strength, not on your prayers, your encouragement, your loyalty. And what's worse, They perform it in public, smile for the camera, throw shade in their captions, subtweet your spirit, all while forgetting that their high horse was built from the ground you laid. Let's not twist it. They didn't build alone. You helped hold their hands while they figured it out. You poured ideas into their mind when they were too discouraged to think straight. You reminded them that they were worthy, even when they gave up on themselves. And now they stand in the spotlight, acting like they found the way on their own, like you were just a background character in a movie they star in. But let me tell you something, the universe does not forget. Energy remembers, and there's a cost to biting the hand that fed your rise. This isn't just arrogance. This is betrayal wrapped in ego, because deep down they know the truth. They know who really stood by them. They know who answered the late-night calls, who helped them clean up the mess they made of their own life. But their pride won't let them say it. Because to admit they needed you is to admit they're not self-made, and their ego won't allow that kind of honesty. They'd rather mock the one who helped them than credit the support that saved them. Let me put it this way, you were water in their drought, and now that they've found a pond, they pretend like they've never been thirsty. But let them keep drinking from shallow streams. They'll soon realize that nothing quenches like a source that's divinely connected. You were the real thing, and what they've got now, it's temporary. It's built on status, not substance. History repeats this pattern over and over. People praised by the world often forget who carried them through obscurity. Think about Steve Jobs, fired by the very company he co-founded, mocked by executives who wouldn't exist without his vision. Think about Maya Angelou, who was once dismissed by literary circles until her words shook the globe. Or look at people like Joseph in ancient stories, used, forgotten, and thrown away, only to rise later in positions that made the same betrayers come begging. That's the lesson here. Chosen ones get mocked in the valley, but remembered at the mountain. You will be back on the throne, not because you need revenge, but because purpose always resurrects what pride tried to bury. You showed up when no one else did, and you didn't just show up, you stayed. Through the breakdowns, the insecurities, the doubt, you cheered louder than anyone. You carried emotional weight that would have crushed them had you not been there. But now they wear designer disrespect and look down like you were just another step on the ladder. Let them ride their high horse, because what they don't realize is that horse has weak knees. That pedestal they're standing on was built with spiritual glue they don't know how to maintain. Without your presence, without your prayers, without your grounding, that foundation starts to crack, slowly, quietly, then all at once. Don't worry about them posting pictures that look like peace. Energy doesn't lie, and you can't filter emptiness. Behind that winning smile is a soul that remembers what you did, and the silence that used to feel like strength is now starting to feel like guilt. Because here's the reality, they didn't just lose a friend, they lost favor. They didn't just walk away from a connection, they abandoned the bridge that carried them through the storm. And the universe always settles that kind of debt. Not through vengeance, but through absence. The high horse only seems tall until it's standing on broken ground. And you're the ground. You were the base, the balance, the quiet blessing they never truly acknowledged. Chosen one, don't chase them. Don't argue with their version of the story. Let their pride be their echo chamber. You have something far greater. Clarity. You saw who they really were, and more importantly, you saw who you really are. Someone who brings life to what is dying. Someone who speaks light into what is dim. Someone who loves without agenda. Someone who shows up even when it's inconvenient. They lost that. They mocked that, and now they get to live with the echo of your absence. And you get to rise again, not with resentment, but with revelation. You know now who you can't take with you. You know now what your presence is worth. And next time someone is gasping for air at rock bottom, you'll know to check for character before offering oxygen. Let them keep riding high, because when that fall comes, the only name they'll remember, the one they'll whisper in regret, is yours. And by then, you'll be unreachable, because you were the miracle they mocked. Number 3, they were drowning. You were the lifeline. Now they blame you for the ocean. You threw them a rope, and they cursed you for the waves. They were drowning, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and you jumped in without hesitation. Not only did you risk your own peace to save them, you became the lifeline that kept them from going under. You offered guidance when they had no direction, stability when they had none, and love when they were hollow. But now that they've resurfaced, they have the audacity to blame you for the storm, for the chaos they created with their own hands. No, let's be real. They didn't hate the rope, they hated the reflection. Because when you saved them, you also exposed the fact that they needed saving. And pride doesn't like being rescued. So now they rewrite the script, act like you were controlling, like you made things worse, like your presence was the problem. But chosen one, you didn't create the ocean. You just refused to let them drown in it. You weren't dragging them, you were carrying them, and that weight you bore silently. It would have crushed anyone else. But you did it anyway, because that's who you are. That's what chosen ones do. You didn't ask for credit. You didn't ask for applause. You just wanted them to heal. Look at famous examples. Princess Diana poured herself into people drowning in scandal, addiction, and shame, only to be smeared by the very system she tried to save. Or Robin Williams, whose laughter kept the world afloat while privately he was being pulled under. Chosen souls are always blamed for the very pain they were trying to soothe. Why? Because your light reflects their darkness, and when they're not ready to face it, they attack the source instead of the shadow. So now they're out here acting like you were the storm, telling people you were the one who broke them. But let the universe hear it all, because the universe knows you were the rope, not the wave. You were the anchor, not the chaos. You didn't bring pain, you held them through it. You gave love they hadn't earned, compassion they didn't understand, and presence they'll never find again. Let them talk. Let them twist it. The truth is sealed in energy, and when it all crashes again, and it will, they'll look for that lifeline. But by then, you'll be too far, too elevated, too healed, because you were sent to rescue, not to sink. Let the ocean remind them of what they destroyed. You're already walking on water. Number 4, they didn't just leave, they tried to erase you. People don't rewrite history unless they know the truth makes them look bad. They didn't just leave, chosen one, they tried to erase you. Not with silence, but with slander. Not with distance, but with distortion. They didn't walk away in peace, they ran with the narrative, dragging your name behind them like a trophy for their fake victimhood. They told half-truths, twisted timelines, painted themselves as the wounded soul who had no choice, all to hide the fact that you were the one who held them together when they were falling apart. Let's be real. If you were really the villain, they wouldn't have to lie. They wouldn't have to rewrite history. They'd just tell the truth and let it speak. But that's the thing. The truth exposes them, not you. The truth says you stayed too long, that you gave too much, that you loved when you should have walked, that you carried guilt that wasn't yours, all while they sharpened the knife behind your back. They didn't just want freedom, they wanted to be seen as innocent, and the only way to do that was to make you look guilty. So they got ahead of the story, ran their mouths to friends, family, maybe even strangers, selling a version of events that made them the hero and you the chaos. All so they didn't have to look in the mirror and admit that they wrecked a good thing. But Chosen One, let them talk, because truth doesn't beg to be believed. It echoes in energy. Anyone with discernment can feel the difference. And over time, the lies will rot, the mask will crack, and the same people they tried to convince will start to ask questions they can't answer. Famous people have lived this truth too. Think of Britney Spears, labeled as crazy when she was breaking under the weight of being exploited and unheard. Or Malcolm X, smeared as violent when he was simply done being quiet. History is full of chosen ones who were demonized by people who were terrified of their truth. You're in good company. They didn't erase you, they just revealed their own fear. Because when you're powerful, when you're light, when you're divine, the only way weak people feel safe is to convince others you were dangerous. But the universe saw it all, every lie, every twisted word, every fake tear, and while they're out here rewriting the past, the future is already aligning in your favor. Let them bury your name in their lies, because what they can't bury is your purpose. Number 5. You fed them in famine, now they feast and forget you. They got full off your sacrifice and now won't even say your name at the table. You fed them in famine, when they were starving for love, starving for direction, starving for anything real. You were the one who showed up with your hands full and your heart wide open. You gave without asking, poured into them when your own cup was cracked. You didn't just offer support, you offered yourself, piece by piece, even when you were running on empty. And now they're feasting like kings at tables you helped build, and acting like you were never even there. They don't mention the nights you stayed up helping them process their pain. They don't acknowledge the way you pushed them toward their dreams when they had no vision. They don't remember how you sat with them in silence when the world turned its back. Why? Because to speak your name is to admit that they didn't build this alone, and their pride can't handle that. But let's tell the truth. They didn't manifest this success by themselves. They weren't strong enough to survive that storm alone. You were their compass when they were lost, their anchor when they were drifting. You were the steady voice reminding them they still had value when life stripped them bare. You were the one who saw a future in them before they could even see a tomorrow. Now they post like they've always been this confident, walk like they've always been this whole, smile like healing just found them on its own. But deep down, they know who fed them in their famine, who kept them from collapsing, who believed in their glow before it had light. You. Famous souls have lived this same cycle. Think of Serena Williams, elevating her father's vision, only for the world to try and erase him from her narrative. Or the story of Nikola Tesla, whose ideas built empires for others while his name was buried beneath them. History is littered with people who sowed, only to be shut out when the feast began. But chosen one, hear me, you were never meant to beg for a seat at the table you built. You were meant to build your own. Let them eat. Let them pretend. Let them enjoy the fruit of your sacrifice. Because one day, when the table cracks and the food turns bitter, they'll realize they didn't just leave you behind. They left the source of their favor. The universe. It saw every seed you planted, every tear you cried while they filled their plate. And now your feast is coming, one they can't sit at, one they can't touch, one that has your name carved into every seat. Because they might have forgotten who fed them, but the universe never forgets who starved to see others full. Number 6, you gave them light. They called it a spotlight. You brought candles into their dark room, and they accused you of blinding them. You didn't show up to compete. You showed up to complete. You didn't walk into their life to overshadow anyone. You walked in to lift them, to bring warmth into their cold places, to help them see possibilities they had never considered before. But somewhere along the way, your light, your love, your clarity, your wisdom started to threaten them. Not because you were attacking, but because you were reflecting everything they refused to confront. You brought the candles. They blamed you for the heat. You gave them vision. They accused you of showing off. All you did was show up with good energy, truth in your voice, and elevation in your presence. But they twisted it, turned your support into competition, made your strength feel like arrogance, your success feel like sabotage. And it wasn't because you were doing too much, it was because they were doing too little. And instead of rising with you, they resented you. They felt small standing next to your light, and instead of expanding, they tried to dim you. It happens to every chosen one. Look at Kobe Bryant, labeled too intense, too much, because his greatness exposed the laziness of others. Look at Nipsey Hussle, uplifting his community while being envied by the very people he tried to empower. Light always makes darkness uncomfortable, not because it's aggressive, but because it reveals what's hidden. You didn't brag, you didn't compete, you didn't try to dominate, you simply walked in truth. And that truth threatened the comfort of their shadows, so they projected. They made you the villain, said you were doing the most, said you thought you were better, but all along it was their own insecurity talking, not your actions. But chosen one, don't you dare shrink, don't dim to make others feel tall. The same light they accused of blinding them, that was the light keeping them alive, the warmth that kept them from freezing, the clarity that helped them find their own reflection. Now that you've left, they'll understand, because when the room goes cold and the dark starts creeping back in, they'll realize your glow wasn't ego, it was protection. Let them sit in the dark room they tried to decorate with denial. You were never the spotlight. You were the soul fire. And once that fire is gone, no imitation can ever match the glow. Number 7. They called you too much right after drinking your energy dry. It's funny how the ones who take the most always call you too much. Isn't that something? They drank your energy like it was endless, like you were a bottomless well of healing, attention, love, and patience, until you ran dry. And then suddenly, you were too much, too intense, too emotional, too everything. But not when they needed you, not when they were drowning in their own chaos, and you were the only one willing to swim out and save them. Not when they were pulling from your light just to make it through the day. No, back then, you were perfect. They didn't call you too much when you picked up their late-night calls, listened to the same problems for the 10th time, or forgave them for the 100th. They didn't think you were intense when your intuition protected them from people they couldn't see were snakes. They didn't call you too emotional when you were pouring your soul into helping them feel human again. But the moment your light started exposing their shadows, the moment your standards started demanding growth, the moment you stopped shrinking to make them feel secure, suddenly you were the problem. It wasn't that you were too much. It was that they were too small to receive the full version of you. Your depth was uncomfortable to someone who lives on the surface. Your intensity, a mirror to their lack of passion. Your emotions, a threat to their emotional immaturity. They didn't want to meet you where you were. They wanted you to dim, to dilute, to edit yourself into something less divine. And this is what happens with chosen ones, just like Frida Kahlo, poured everything into her art, her love, her pain, only to be called dramatic and unstable by the very people her fire illuminated, or Janis Joplin, who gave her entire soul to the stage and was still told she was too loud, too wild, too much. That's what the world does to people who love without fear and feel without filter. It drains them, then shames them. But you, chosen one, were never too much. You were abundant, and they were addicted to the overflow until you stopped bleeding for people who wouldn't even hand you a bandage. Let them talk. Let them throw labels like clingy, crazy, dramatic. That's just code for, I couldn't handle someone who loved me with that much truth. You weren't too much. They were too incomplete to handle what you brought whole. Number 8. They didn't outgrow you. They outran accountability. You weren't holding them back. You were holding them accountable, and they couldn't take it. Let's kill the lie once and for all. They didn't outgrow you. That's just the pretty excuse they rehearse to cover up the truth. They didn't evolve. They escaped. They didn't rise. They ran from accountability, from growth, from the mirror you held up that showed them exactly who they were and who they refused to become. You weren't a barrier. You were a blueprint. You weren't controlling. You had standards. You weren't suffocating. You had structure. But to someone used to chaos, peace feels like a prison. To someone used to being coddled, a boundary feels like rejection. So instead of stepping up, they stepped out and called it a spiritual awakening. No, that was spiritual avoidance dressed in fake enlightenment. They said you were too rigid, too serious, too stuck in your ways. But really, you were the only one willing to say, that behavior isn't okay. You were the only one calling out the cycles, the patterns, the excuses. And that threatened the false reality they built for themselves. Look at anyone who's ever challenged systems. Malcolm X, labeled militant when all he wanted was clarity and empowerment. Rosa Parks, called difficult when she simply refused to keep shrinking. Real power always offends the unaccountable. And you, chosen one, were power in its rawest form. You didn't hold them back. You were holding them up, and they couldn't handle the weight of their own reflection. So instead of rising to meet you, they tried to twist the story. I just outgrew them. But how do you outgrow someone who helped you discover your own potential? How do you outgrow the hand that reached into your darkness and pulled you toward healing? You don't. You just get tired of facing yourself, and that's what happened. They saw that your love came with expectations, your loyalty came with standards, your peace came with responsibility, and instead of honoring that, they ran to places where no one challenges them, where mediocrity is praised and growth isn't required, where being unhealed is normal and being selfish is fashionable. So let them outgrow the version of you that lowered your voice, softened your truth, bent your standards. That version is gone, and the one standing now, unapologetically evolved. You didn't get left behind. They left behind the best version of themselves the moment they walked away from you. And the universe. It watched them run, straight into the very cycles you were trying to help them break. Number 9. They betrayed you publicly, but were carried privately. They dishonored the bridge that carried them, forgetting the flood was still rising. They mocked you when eyes were watching, but they wept to you in the dark. They joked about you in public rooms, but behind closed doors, they leaned on you like a crutch. You carried them, emotionally, mentally, spiritually, and you did it silently, with no desire for recognition. You covered their flaws, protected their image, and kept their secrets when you had every reason to expose them. But how did they repay that loyalty? With public betrayal. They wanted the comfort of your love without the cost of respecting you. They wanted your emotional labor without giving you honor, so they kept you hidden, like a secret weapon they didn't want to admit they depended on. Then, when it served them, they distanced themselves publicly, played cool, downplayed your importance, and pretended they didn't owe you a thing. But let's make it plain, they dishonored the bridge that carried them and forgot the flood wasn't over. You were the reason they didn't drown in their own dysfunction, the reason they kept their head up when life was caving in. You were the shield that absorbed every blow while they smiled for the camera. But instead of gratitude, they gave you embarrassment. They told half-truths, created narratives, sat in circles with people who mocked you, and they joined in just to keep their pride intact. But deep down, they know who stood by them when they were spiraling. They know who wiped their tears, who gave them strength, who kept their breakdowns hidden from the world. You did. Think about Tupac, betrayed by people he loved, people he put on, people he protected. Or Whitney Houston, laughed at by the public while carrying the weight of everyone else's pain behind the scenes. Chosen ones always get clowned in the spotlight by the same people who come crawling in the shadows. And that's what makes it hurt. You didn't just love them, you carried them. You gave them grace when they didn't deserve it. You defended them when they weren't around. You absorbed insults that should have been theirs. And in return, they shamed the only soul that saw them as worthy before the world did. But hear this, chosen one, the universe saw everything. It saw the late-night calls, the sacrifices, the secrets you kept to protect their reputation. And it saw the betrayal, the smear, the disrespect. You were the bridge, and they spat on it. Let them face the flood now. You've already crossed to higher ground. Number 10. You could have exposed them, but you chose honor. The loudest power is restraint, the kind that lets karma do what your mouth never had to. You had the truth, the screenshots, the stories, the secrets. You held it all, the very information that could have shattered their image, wrecked their reputation, and exposed them for the manipulator, the liar, the spiritual fraud they really were. You could have aired it out. You could have flipped the narrative. You could have buried them in the very dirt they threw on your name. But you didn't. Not because you were weak, not because you were scared, but because you were disciplined by the divine. Because silence in the hands of the chosen one is not submission. It's warfare wrapped in wisdom. You knew your energy was better spent building than battling. You knew the universe would handle what your mouth didn't have to. So you walked away, with power, with poise, and with receipts you never used. And they hated that. Because nothing bothers a guilty soul more than the one they wronged, staying silent while still rising. They waited for you to react. They expected a breakdown, a messy post, a public meltdown. Instead, they saw elevation. Instead, they watched you glow in silence while the truth sat like a ticking clock behind your back. You didn't need to fight dirty. Your absence said everything. Think of Michelle Obama. When they go low, we go high. She never clapped back, yet the world watched the grace of her silence speak louder than a million tweets. Think of Nelson Mandela, who walked out of prison not with revenge, but with vision. That's the weight of chosen energy. It doesn't retaliate. It redirects. It rebuilds. It releases. And yes, it was hard. Biting your tongue when you wanted to scream, holding back when they were out here performing like saints. But chosen ones understand this. Truth doesn't need defense. It just needs time. And when the time comes, every lie they told will crumble under the weight of your reality. Because the universe doesn't let the righteous stay buried for long. So while they ran their mouths, you ran your race. While they told stories, you built legacy. While they played victim, you became victorious. And now, their biggest fear is exactly what's happening. You're becoming untouchable without ever lifting a finger. You could have exposed them, but instead, you let karma turn the lights on. And now the truth? It's coming louder than any words you ever spoke. Number 11. The universe watched you bleed. Now it's rebalancing the scale. They threw stones. You planted roots. Now watch what grows. Every time they lied on your name, the universe was watching. Every time they ignored your effort, mocked your love, and called your loyalty weakness, the universe took notes. You weren't just suffering, you were sowing. Bleeding in silence wasn't just pain, it was preparation. And now the scale is shifting. The same energy they buried you in is about to lift you higher than they ever imagined. You didn't lose, you invested. Every tear watered your next level. Every betrayal deepened your roots. They thought they were breaking you, but all they did was give the soil more weight to push against, and pressure builds power. While they laughed, you were growing. While they celebrated your exit, the universe was positioning your entrance. And now the rebalancing has begun. The karma. It's not revenge, it's realignment. You're not bitter, you're better. You're not angry, you're elevated. And they're not unlucky, they're just finally getting what they gave. Think about Tyler Perry, homeless, broke, laughed at. But now he owns studios bigger than the same systems that rejected him. Oprah was fired and told she wasn't fit for TV. Now her name is the brand. People threw stones at them, but they used it as foundation. And so did you. You weren't passive, you were patient, you didn't collapse, you calculated. And now that their false narratives are drying up and their fake connections are falling apart, the truth is revealing itself, and your glow is undeniable. They thought they got away with what they did to you, but you weren't looking for revenge. You were letting the universe gather the evidence. Now every door they walk through feels heavy. Every blessing they chase slips through their fingers. Why? Because you were the favor. You were the alignment. And now that you've detached, the imbalance is tipping back into order. So don't worry about clapping back. Don't stress about justice. Just keep rising, keep growing, because the same ones who tried to bury you will have front row seats to your bloom. And when they ask, how did they make it after all that? The universe will whisper, balance. You bled. Now you rise. And this time, they can't follow. And now they're realizing too late. You were the one thing in their life that came with unconditional support, divine alignment, and a love that didn't demand performance. But they didn't just betray you, they betrayed the blessing. And now they sit in rooms that echo with regret. If this message hit your soul, like, subscribe, drop 777 in the comments, and share it with another chosen one who needs to hear this. Your light wasn't wasted, it was witnessed. And the payback? It's already unfolding.